More than 7 million people in Canada are considered seniors, and at least 1 in 4 Canadians are caregivers. This number only continues to rise, with the number of people aged 85 and over expected to triple by 2046. One of those caregivers happens to be our own Christian Dare. His mom recently moved into her retirement home apartment, downsizing from 3,000 to 650 square feet. Naturally, Christian completely redesigned her new space. Let's take a look.
Hey Tracy, this is Mama Jackie, and this is her new place that we just finished redoing. Mom, how do you like it?
I love it.
You have to say that, you're my mom.
No, I don't.
So this remodel is about downsizing. It's all about moving our parents from larger homes into a smaller space just for themselves. So there's lots of tips and tricks you can do when you're doing that. This space was a completely empty sort of new build condo style building, sort of very architecturally plain, not lots of detail. So I thought, why not bring in a faux fireplace? It really adds in that warmth, that mantle. It can be decorated for the holidays. It creates that home feeling, right? I think a lot of us also think, oh, let's move in as much of their old furniture as we can to make it feel like their home still. But I think a good trick is to pick certain pieces and then opt for some new pieces. For example, I didn't bring in a giant living room set, A, because of space, but also it's because it's for one. So I thought, what's the most luxurious thing? A giant chaise lounge for one person. It's perfect for reading, streaming some TV, just getting cozy, right? One of the easiest ways to make a space feel personalized for your parents is to incorporate some of their art pieces they already have at home, but then add in some new pieces that complement them. So my mom loves horses, so I thought, what better thing than a giant oversized horse portrait from HomeSense. And then last but not least, I think it's always nice to add in some print and pattern for our parents, especially on the floor. This great warm carpet has a graphic print that actually helps with vision. Now this space had room for a dining room, but as you can see, not room for a giant dining room set, which I think a lot of our parents have and we grew up with. So I thought, let's downsize, but I think some people downsize too far and they opt for this sort of tiny cafe table for two. So I grabbed this new table from IKEA. It's large enough to have breakfast at, or even use it for arts and crafts, maybe some puzzle making in the afternoon, or if you invite the ladies over for coffee or cocktail one day. The bedroom. I always consider the bedroom the sanctuary of the home. It's my favorite place, so I always want it to be my mom's favorite place. The whole idea is to make it feel like a luxury hotel room just for one. So one trick I've learned is you can downsize their bed from a queen to a double. It gives you extra square footage in the room. It also allows for more accessibility around the bed. And in terms of accessibility, don't opt for one of those modern low beds that everyone loves these days. It just won't be helpful as they age. Make sure you top it off with some beautiful bedding, some nice extra blankets for those sort of swings in temperature. And then last but not least, I always opt for 2 layers of curtains or window dressings in the room, one for privacy and then an extra one for warmth and darkness so that you can have a full blackout in the room if they're used to sleeping in total darkness. So now that you've seen how I redone my mom's place, are we gonna see how you redo your parents' place, Tracy?
You know what? Downsizing my parents would be a bit of a nightmare, Christian, if I'm being totally honest. I love what you did with your mom's place. I love the blues, the navy blues. What was it like moving your mom into this new space?
I mean, I have to admit, it was a bit of a struggle at first, but my mom is kind of a notorious mover. She's always had a house kind of out by the ocean and then one in the city, so she goes back and forth a lot. So she's been used to sort of like editing down her sort of furniture over the years, so that made it kind of easy. She was ready for a change. I think she didn't want to take care of a giant space anymore just for one. But I will admit, we did argue over a few things. And I'll say in typical WASP fashion, we argued over thread count. I was right, she was wrong. And where we should set up a bar cart. And I thought, we are not doing a bar cart in this space for you. You can go out to the lounge and have some drinks.
I'm happy you stayed true to your lineage, your WASP lineage. But did you have any apprehensions about moving her into a retirement or assisted living home? Like, was there anything in you that was like, no, I don't want to do this?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, like I had so many apprehensions. I think we had that sort of like childhood guilt. I think we've all been grown up. Don't you ever put me in a retirement home or assisted living home ever. But she had some health conditions we had to be concerned about, like some issues around balance, some issues around memory, some issues around like getting dressed on her own. So it definitely wasn't a choice. I mean, we all lived in downtown, our whole family. I don't know where I'd put her in this loft type space for her. So definitely there was apprehensions, but we debated it. And as a family thought, let's look into sort of a private healthcare option because the public health care is a very long waiting list and we kind of need to find solutions immediately. So we try to find things close to family members, close to some nature outdoors that she enjoyed. And then, to be honest, to deal with my guilt, I just went over the top with design. I was like, this is what I do. I will make it as luxe as possible. I did like a brand new amazing bed so she'd sleep well. I got her these new like custom pillows from Wink that make you sleep perfectly. So I was like, okay, I will deal with my guilt by over designing.
Oh, I like the way you work through your guilt. Okay, what struggles have your mom faced as she's gotten older, and how have you accommodated for that in this space?
I mean, definitely one of the struggles I've learned is as our parents get older, they tell us less. Like my mother used to be very open about health when we were younger. We went to naturopaths, and then she just stopped telling us about things that were happening. So we discovered things like memory loss, issues with like depth of vision, where she couldn't see downstairs very well. So living in a two-story house was not helpful. So to accommodate with that, there's a couple tricks we learned. I incorporated like an Amazon Alexa, which I think we all think of as automation for younger people, but she's pretty tech savvy. So it can remind her about appointments, remind when to take pills. We can do video calls with her on there. Even she can just look and ask what day it is if she's not sure what day of the week it is. So that was really helpful. It even can turn off her lights, which I love. And then also I did design things that I've learned, like in the living room, we did this printed carpet and it's got this subtle print because it actually helps with your depth of vision. If you can see differences in the floor, you can see better and understand that depth versus it all being the same sort of surface on the floor.
Oh, that's really smart. These are really smart ideas. How's your relationship with your mom changed recently, if at all, Christian?
I mean, it definitely has changed. I think a lot of us start to have that feeling of like, is it a role reversal? Am I now the parent? Which I'm not, trust me, she'll tell you. And they become the child. I would say it's not quite that accurate of a flipping because she's still in that state where she's still very well aware. She's aware there's some issues with her memory, but she's aware she's still the mom and she still sets the rules a lot of times. So it's a bit hard to navigate. And mostly I've just learned to be more patient.
Yeah, it's a lot about the patience and you know what, the hearing the stories again and again and the like just sit there and listen to the story. That's what I've learned. So what have you learned about navigating elder care in Canada, Christian?
I'd like to keep this positive, but I will say it is a pain. It is a pain. It is a pain. It is a pain. I feel if I could rip my hair out, I probably would have. But there are some tips and tricks. So one of the first things I learned was posting it on Facebook. Being very open about what you're going through, because there's actually a lot of your friends out there who are going through similar things. And I actually got lots of tips and tricks from them. For example, I was put in contact with this group called Can Age, which is a sort of seniors advocacy group that's known across the country that will give you the tips and tricks on how to navigate the system, what you can do. Also, like the Alzheimer's Society has great tips, and they're located in each sort of city. So I learned all sorts of things, like there are ways we can navigate it. There's sort of a public system that's been set up and a private system. We all can't afford the private system. To be honest, we can't either, but it's the way we're going right now because we were told almost 4 years was the waiting time for a public space for her. And we couldn't wait 4 years.
No, you just don't have the time. Now, even if our parents are in good health, Christian, anything we can do now to prepare?
So my mom's always been an entrepreneur, a businesswoman. She felt she was organized for when this came along. Almost. So definitely it's about looking at things, and she did this a couple years ago, like power of attorney in terms of your health issues, power of attorney in terms of your finances. But what she forgot to do is it's really helpful if you send all those things to the required people ahead of time. For example, there was a power of attorney for finances signed by lawyers, et cetera, but the bank didn't have a copy of it yet. So I sent it to them, and it took a little bit longer than if she'd put it in ahead of time on her own. Also, add your children, especially if you're going to make them the executive or the power of attorney, to things like your phone bills, your heating bills, your insurance bills, even just as a contact. There's some I call and I was like, oh, I'm sure I'm not on this list. They're like, oh, you are on her insurance. I was like, really? So it made it much easier than going through that step of proving that you've got the power of attorney, proving that you can make certain decisions for her at this time. And then make sure you're talking to your parents about their wishes. Do they want to live in a retirement home? Some people do now, actually. It's quite a sense of community. They've got activities. They don't have to worry about their home maintenance. What do they want with their will, et cetera, et cetera. It's stuff we can really do now for our parents. And even it's something I made do for myself because I haven't been thinking about that. And I think we all need to think about it as we age.
Totally. I want to be like my Aunt Gloria. She's a Capricorn, and in true Capricorn style, she had everything laid out for her death, like everything. I want to be like that. Thank you for sharing your story with us, Christian. You're making all the right moves, and your mom is so lucky to have you.